The wary wild turkey, a Native American. It was Benjamin Franklin's choice as the national bird of the United States. For many people, this is what turkey means: a roasted bird ready for the table. For many, it also symbolizes Thanksgiving Day. That is a recent association. It did not originate with the Pilgrims, as many people believe. As a meat, turkey is more common today than it was for early Indians and pioneers, because they had to hunt wild turkeys. Today, millions of domestic turkeys are raised on farms that specialize in producing them for market. The Aztec Indians were the first to tame wild turkeys. Though today there are many dark-colored domestic varieties, this white turkey is one commonly produced. They've been specially developed to mature faster and have more tender, moist meat. Even though domestics had wild ancestors, they're really not much like their wary wild relatives. This is where the real story of the wild turkey begins. Often before snow is off the ground, the male, or tom, begins trying to attract females, or hens, by fanning out his tail feathers and strutting, a way of showing off what a regal tom he is. The smaller, less conspicuous hen ignores the tom's display and continues to feed. It is early in the courtship season yet. This doesn't seem to dampen the male's enthusiasm for strutting his stuff. A cardinal watches from above. About a month later, in April, in the turkey's northern ranges, streams thaw out and snow melts, signaling spring. A white-tailed deer listens. Now the courtship gets more intense. They're moving further into the woods as more snow melts away, returning to favorite strutting areas they've used in the past. Gobbles are heard everywhere. The sound gives the toms another name: gobblers. During courtship, they live on stored fat and won't feed much the next few weeks. Their sounds and displays are all for one purpose: attracting the hens. Even the gobbler's head changes colors, an array of red, white, and blue. The hens will court and mate with the toms when they're closer to their time to lay eggs. For now, this one starts searching for food. It will take a lot of energy to produce eggs. Some other hens take advantage of a dry area to dust themselves, perhaps to help get rid of parasites. Turkeys, like most birds, spend much time grooming their feathers to keep them fit, a behavior called preening. Their feathers must be cleaned, straightened, and oiled regularly. Healthy feathers keep the birds warm and dry and are vital to their survival. Toms have a beard made of long, narrow feathers. Strong, scale-covered feet are well adapted for gripping. Males have spurs on their legs that are used in fighting. Wild turkeys stand 3 to 4 feet tall, and gobblers of the eastern subspecies weigh about 20 pounds. Males have fewer feathers on their heads than females. The gobbler's face and head is covered with a warty-like skin that looks as if it fits too loosely. A fleshy projection called a snood hangs from its forehead over its beak. It is truly a unique face. Turkeys spend the night roosting on a high tree branch, safe from ground predators. They are good flyers, but do not fly long distances. Flocks often have several favorite roosting trees in their range, but if there aren't many suitable trees, they continue to use the same one. Early spring mornings are especially a time of great activity, gobbling, strutting, and displaying. Hens come to mate. These toms of various ages may display together, but a dominance order was established earlier in the season. Dominant older gobblers will mate with a majority of the hens. One by one, each hen will go off alone and find a hidden spot to build a nest and lay her eggs. Toms will continue to display into the spring to attract any unmated hens. But for this season, most of the gobblers have already given their part to the new generation. They'll now spend time feeding to regain fat lost during mating season. As spring progresses, aspen trees flower. It's time for turkey gobbler hunting season. This boy and his dad have been out and gotten a big tom. With increased numbers of turkeys, hunting is permitted. It's enjoyed by many people. Biologists at check stations record each bird taken so they know more about the turkey population. This boy had to learn about turkeys and their habits to be lucky enough to get this tom. It was a challenge, and he obviously enjoyed the sport. They know that habitat and good management are necessary for wildlife to survive. Now it's home with their prize and a fine turkey dinner. Meanwhile, in a well-camouflaged area, the hen has found a suitable nest site. Her dark colors blend well in the shadows and vegetation as she leaves, revealing a nest. A turkey nest may have 8 to 15 eggs. This one has 13. The nest is a shallow depression in the ground lined with leaves. The eggs are slightly larger than chicken eggs. Looking somewhat nervous and on the lookout for predators, the hen hurries off to get some food for herself. She will return shortly so the eggs won't get chilled. Nearby, a ruffed grouse is on his favorite drumming log. There's a movement in the vegetation. The hen is returning, watching so she does not attract a predator to her nest location. Satisfied she hasn't been seen, she takes her time settling back on all those eggs, fussing until they feel just right. Her secretiveness and camouflage are usually enough to prevent raccoons and skunks from finding the nest. The days pass, and the aspen flowers have formed cottony fruits that are drifting away. Part of the incubation job includes turning the eggs regularly so the turkey chicks develop properly in the shells. It may also allow oxygen to move throughout the egg more evenly. The toms remain alone or in small groups, never taking part in any stage of rearing their young. The white-tailed deer still has last year's fawn with her. It takes about 28 days for the chicks to develop to hatching. There are only a few days left. Oak buds have popped open to release their expanding new leaves. It's mid-spring, and birds are returning. A rose-breasted grosbeak, a scarlet tanager. Meanwhile, the eggs have hatched into tiny, downy turkeys called poults. Each one spent several hours pecking its way all around the inside of the shell so it could push it open. She looks around for predators. Within a period of about 24 hours, all the poults have hatched, dried off, and are ready to leave. The hen leads the way. Since several hours before hatching, the poults have been peeping to the hen and listening to her. They already know her calls. It is like a jungle for the tiny poults to struggle through. They haven't ventured far until a short rest is necessary. They will rest often, and if it is cold, the hen will come and sit over them. Though they may travel less than a mile from the nest, they will not return to it. The shells and drying membranes produce odors that may attract predators to the old nest. Not a good place for the young poults. Instead, the hen stops and broods the young turkeys wherever they happen to be feeding. She provides warmth and protection. A tent caterpillar is wandering up the hen's neck. The tent caterpillars have been eating for several days. They've eaten all the aspen leaves. They live in the webs they spin in the fork of the tree and crawl out to feed on the leaves. This year's infestation is heavy. They started out as tiny larvae, and when they have grown many times their original size, they begin to wander and look for a place to spin a cocoon where they will become a moth. They crawl over anything in their way, even a brooding turkey. Time to move on. The chicks are rested and ready to go. The next weeks will be a busy search for food for the growing poults. They will move about chasing insects and exploring their world. The hen doesn't feed them, but she searches for seeds, berries, and insects, calling softly when she finds something. The poults rush over to eat the tidbit. In a nearby tree, another mother is feeding her family. The young robins are more helpless than turkey poults. And the doe has 2 fawns this year. By 2 weeks of age, the poults can fly well enough to get into the trees and roost there at night, much safer from predators. Flying begins at about 7 days of age, with short running hops and flights, as soon as their wing feathers grow out. A family of turkeys may often be seen along country back roads during the dewy summer mornings. After feeding in the tall, wet grasses, they stop in the sun to dry out wet feathers and get warm. The hen is ever alert for danger. From the road, they will also eat small stones to be used in their gizzard for grinding food during digestion. By late summer, the poults are half the size of their parent and look much like the hen. Not all 13 survived. They feed intently, eating seeds for energy and insects for extra protein. The female poults will remain with the hen, but the young males will form gobbler groups for winter. Winter in the northern habitats brings snow and cold. The turkeys are well adapted to survive extremely cold temperatures if they have enough food. Feathers insulate well against the bitter cold. Younger males, called jakes, often have disputes for dominance between them. When a fight occurs, it attracts other males, just as onlookers. In many areas, turkeys have been reestablished in former ranges, and their populations are growing. In one of these places, biologists are using corn to lure the wary turkeys into a special area. Then they set up nets to trap the birds so they can move them to other ranges where turkeys have disappeared. Turkey populations fell radically during the first half of the century due to overhunting and loss of habitat. By trapping and relocating live birds, biologists have reintroduced birds into most all of their former ranges, plus some new areas. The trap is set. The turkeys are coming, but they're cautious, and sometimes they spot the net. Not this time. It becomes a beehive of activity. The game biologists rush in to cover the struggling birds so they will settle down and not injure themselves. The turkeys are big and powerful. The workers act quickly to untangle them and lessen the effects of stress from capture. They put the turkeys into boxes to keep them quiet. This conserves the bird's energy for release at the new location. After the crew leaves, the other birds return to eat corn. At the new location, the releases begin. The turkeys demonstrate their good flying ability as they head for the woods. This site has been carefully studied by the biologists. It was chosen for good cover and an adequate food supply. In a few days, the turkeys will have walked around their new home to find food, cover, and roosting trees. If given a chance and a home, wildlife can survive. Remember, there's more to the turkey story than that bird on the Thanksgiving table. Next time someone calls you a turkey, take it as a compliment. These large, wary, secretive Native Americans are successful survivors.